Welcome to another episode of Driveway Mechanics. I'm Jason. In this episode, we're diagnosing a charging issue with Project Midnight. As you can see here, the car's not starting because the battery voltage is so low that it won't crank the engine over. What you're looking at here is a connector for the alternator that goes basically to the dashboard for the battery charge lamp or multimeter indicator that that indicates when the battery needs charged or when it is not charging. So I'm actually running a test here with this disconnected, a test that was I found in the workshop manual for the vehicle, and I'm going to be turning the car on with this connector disconnected, and it wants me to verify whether that charge lamp indicator is illuminated on the dash or if it is not. So this has been some fun testing. Here I am now attempting to start the vehicle. And once we get it started, as you can see, the battery indicator light or charge lamp did not come on with it just in the accessory and on mode. The car is now running and the light is still not illuminating. So based off of that response from the vehicle, I will be performing another test and moving on to a different step based off of the results. Now, I will let you know that this has been an ongoing issue since replacing the alternator. It's intermittent, it was not consistent, and I was a little confused as to what was going on. So here's part of the test that I'm performing, or part of the steps I'm performing with the workflow. We just did number 1, and that had us turn the ignition off, disconnect the alternator connector, which I showed you, turn the ignition on, which I did show you as well, and then it asks if the warning lamp should light up, or is the warning lamp lighting up. Our answer was obviously no, based off of what we saw. So we move back to the workflow chart to move on to the next step. And as you'll see, the next step is check S-terminal circuit. And we'll be moving on to that test in just a moment. But I started at the top at the left, moved down on the left, moved over to the step I just showed you, and now moving on to check S-terminal circuit. Now, my suspicions as to what is causing this issue or what caused the issue, I was not too far off, but it wasn't actually what the workflow recommends replacing. So here I'm showing that there's I'm showing battery. That's the actual battery voltage, 12.9 volts, and then the next test is asking me to use a multimeter into the connector that we showed in the previous test, and it wants to see if you're seeing battery voltage. Now, that's what you're seeing here is 12.9 volts, and off camera I verified 12.9 volts was what the battery was showing. And there's the positive power part of the connector circuit, and it's indicating 12.9 volts. So based off of that, we'll see what the workflow in the shop manual is advising. And it's actually going to, and see there, we just verified it. That's the load diagram basically showing what you were just looking at. And we're moving on to what the resolution is going to be, which actually isn't the one that's in this that you're going to see in just a minute. I had a feeling it was going to point me in this direction, but I just needed to verify. Again, Yeah, it's actually saying to check the alternator pulley, which I did. I didn't record that. I was just free spinning it and verifying that it wasn't binding up and that everything on the inside, the stator wire and all that stuff was all good. And it actually was. Now the issue is actually going to be this, which you'll see here in just a second, is going to be the idler pulley to the that you're seeing, or I/P, next to the alternator in the belt diagram. That's actually the problem because that tensioner is not actually holding its place when you tighten it. So I tightened, and temporarily for this purpose, I tightened this up. I tightened the pulley back up, which tightened the belt up, which in turn would spin the alternator and allow the alternator to charge. As you can see, the light's off. I plugged everything back in and the light's off, so it is charging for now. In another video, I'll show you how I replaced that pulley and tensioner assembly and verify that 100% that our issue is resolved. And as you can see here, I have the vehicle running and I'm testing the battery voltage, which is showing 14.3.4, which indicates that the alternator is charging the battery. So what happens is that you run every time you let the car run for a few minutes or you take it for a drive, it loosens that pulley that you're looking at right now, which loosens the belt. So that ended up being the issue, but I'll show you those results in another episode. Thank you for watching, and until the next episode.